What is up, everybody? It's AJ, and I have some breaking news. Rob Font has stepped in on short notice to fight Cory Sandhagen in the UFC Nashville main event. That card taking place on August 5th. Now, Font is jumping in on short notice, so they're giving him a 140-pound catch weight instead of having to cut all the way down to 135. He was training to fight on the UFC Boston pay-per-view fight card. He was scheduled to take on Song Yadong there. That fight would have been 2 weeks after. Now this new scheduled matchup against Cory Sandhagen, he was getting the hometown support going to Boston, but instead he's taking, I think, the proper career move, which is a #1 contender fight against Cory Sandhagen. I actually really like this matchup. Now, Umar Nurmagomedov was the original opponent for Sandhagen. Shoulder dislocation, had to pull out of the fight. No news on if he'll need surgery or how long he'll be out. Also, though, with Song Yadong, I don't know. Are they going to keep him on that UFC Boston fight card? Only time will tell. This matchup here, though, gets me pretty excited, and putting it together was a necessity because this fight, in my opinion, saves UFC Nashville. Without this main event, this card would not have been able to hold up. Like, yeah, they could have still done it with a Tatiana Suarez, Jessica Andrade main event, but they would lose so many eyes. And if you had tickets to that event, I think you would be extremely disappointed. But the UFC always comes through. They give us the good matchups. They make things happen on short notice, and Rob Font's in a good spot here. I'm really excited to talk about the matchup. So in this video here, I'm going to give you guys an early preview and prediction. And I also want to talk about what is at stake for the winner. So make sure you guys smash that like button, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe too. Let's first look at the short notice replacement, Rob Font. Let's look at his past few fights. Now, 1 and 2 out of his past 3. So it's not, an amazing look on paper, but look at the losses. Jose Aldo, Hall of Famer, MMA legend, champion, no shame in that loss. Marlon Chito Vera, who was on a hot streak at that point, and also Rob Font was winning a lot of that fight. Vera was just having bigger moments and able to hurt Rob Font. And then Rob Font, 2 months ago, took on Adrian Yanez, one of the hottest prospects at 135, and he knocked him out in the first round. He beat the hell out of him there. It was such an impressive performance. He made easy work of Yanez, who's somebody that I think the UFC was behind, and they were thinking he was next up. Rob Font was a big underdog in that fight too, and it was one of those, hey, I'm still around, don't count me out performances for the 36-year-old Rob Font. But he's fighting Cory Sandhagen here. On the other side, Cory Sandhagen's past few, we'll look at them. I mean, let's look to the past 4. He fought TJ Dillashaw and lost an extremely competitive and some people would say controversial split decision. Following that, he took on Petr Yan, and he did lose that fight on the judges' scorecards. But 2-fight win streak for him now. He beats the hell out of Song Yadong, who was actually Rob Font's original opponent for UFC 292. So this is a great step up for Font. Beat the hell out of him there. And then last fight, pretty back and forth with Marlon Vera. It's a split decision on paper, but I definitely think that he won that fight. So it's not one of those controversial, wish-washy split decisions. The right guy won it, and it was Cory Sandhagen. And he's shown in his past couple of fights some evolution to his game. For a long time, Cory Sandhagen known primarily for being a tremendous striker, and he certainly is a tremendous striker. He's got so many tools here in this matchup, but he's showing some wrinkles to his game, new wrinkles, being ground skills, taking his opponents down, controlling them on the ground. So I like seeing evolution, especially with Cory Sandhagen, who's definitely in his prime right now. On the other side, Rob Font has great boxing chops. His hands, some of the best in the UFC. I will put his jab up there with anybody in MMA right now. He can jab fighters up. This matchup here, though, gonna be tricky. Even though in pure boxing, I will favor Rob Font. I think his pure boxing is better. But when I look at the entire skill set, Cory Sandhagen has way more weapons here. I believe the kicks will be a factor. Knees in close and elbows too, sure. Punch to punch, straight boxing, I give Rob Font a little edge. But the overall game, it's favoring Sandhagen a bit. Now, when you look at the grappling department, yes, Sandhagen is showing some new wrinkles in his ground skills. Rob Font's not an easy guy to control with wrestling. I don't see Sandhagen having a ton of success looking to get this fight to the floor. I see a very competitive striking match from long range, Sandhagen with the advantage, having the kicks, the leg length. As far as height and reach, Cory Sandhagen stands 5'11", Rob Font stands 5'8". Font has a 1.5-inch reach advantage, being the shorter fighter by 3 inches. But where Sandhagen's edge is going to be is the kicking range. He definitely is the better pure kicker of the two here. So I do see a competitive back and forth. I see Rob Font having moments with the hands. I do think Sandhagen is going to be able to land the better strikes from range, control where this fights go. And I do think in the tie clinch against the cage, there could be some potential big strikes for a Cory Sandhagen. I don't think he's going to get super effective and dominant ground control, but I can see him taking down a Rob Font, scoring points there, and garnering up control time to win rounds. Now, I think it's going to be a lot of striking. It's going to be a hard-fought matchup. My early prediction for it, it's got to be Cory Sandhagen to win it. I think he is going to beat Rob Font on the judges' scorecards. Now, would it be impossible for Cory to find some type of magnificent kill shot knockout? No. But my confidence lies on him winning it by decision against an always tough Rob Font. Now, fantasy betting line, I think Sandhagen's opening it up as the favorite, probably in the -200 range, but I do think there's a chance it expands upwards to -250, maybe 300. But I believe there's going to be a lot of hype on Rob Font as an underdog here, specifically because of his hands, because his boxing skills are really good. And I mean, in his last fight against Yanez, he turned it up. Now, if you talk about common opponents, Sandhagen just beat Marlon Vera, the guy who beat Rob Font in his last loss. MMA math is not something that really works. You know, it's all matchup specific, but just an interesting note. I still think Sandhagen's getting it done. I see him winning it by a decision, but very hard matchup against a short notice Rob Font. Now, when I look at this fight, I ponder and wonder, what is next for the winner? Well, originally, the UFC had said Cory Sandhagen, Umar Nurmagomedov is the #1 contender fight at 135. This is a catchweight fight at 140, but it's still between top-tier bantamweights that are proven to be able to make weight. I will say the winner of this fight finds themselves probably in that title shot. Specifically, Sandhagen will get a big thumbs up yes. For Rob Font, could they somehow finagle it and not give him a title shot if he beats Sandhagen? I believe so. But with an impressive win over Cory Sandhagen on short notice, if Rob Font is able to put his punches together and knock out a Sandhagen, you cannot deny him a title fight. Now look at the bantamweight title picture. 292, the card Rob Font was supposed to fight on, headlined by Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling, which is a title fight at 135. If Sean O'Malley can win it, a Cory Sandhagen, Sean O'Malley fight is something out of a fucking dream for me. I would love to see how those two strikers clash. Now, obviously, Aljamain Sterling's not an easy matchup for Sandhagen. I won't lie to you, though. I think Aljamain Sterling could get knocked out by Sean O'Malley. Aljamain Sterling rematching with the Sandhagen, I'd be curious to see that fight too, because how quickly the first one ended with Sandhagen getting choked out in that fight. For Rob Font, I mean, if he wins, he's right at the tippy top of the weight class, and I think he's probably in an interesting spot. And I mean, can you imagine even Sean O'Malley versus Rob Font could still be a pretty sick stylistic matchup. But realistically, I see Cory Sandhagen winning, and I see him fighting the winner of Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. So big fights on the marquee for Cory Sandhagen coming up. What concerns me a little bit, though, is the bantamweight division as a whole could be held up if Aljamain Sterling wins, because he has repeatedly talked about wanting to go up and challenge Alexander Volkanovski at 145 pounds. And with the recently announced matchup of Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira 2 for UFC 294, I think with a win, Aljamain would be a viable contender at 145 pounds, regardless if he's never fought there. Now, new blood Ilia Topuria, coming off of a sick dominant win over Josh Emmett, is also right there in the title picture. But let's be honest, a super fight with Aljamain Sterling getting a chance, especially if he's impressive with a win over Sean O'Malley, could be what's next, which would then put the division in a very weird place, being bantamweight. Either a potential interim title fight or it would be a vacant title if Aljamain Sterling chooses to relinquish the belt. Doubt that he relinquishes it, but I know his boy Merab is definitely clamoring at the bit to get a chance to be world champion. But he's not going to be put in an interim title fight, because then with a win, Merab would just vacate the interim belt and say, no, I'm not fighting Aljamain Sterling, my boy. So Merab then out of the number one contender spot, which I do think he's probably right up there. It would be the winner of this matchup here, Sandhagen versus Rob Font, versus who? I mean, maybe if Sean O'Malley in loss was even impressive against Aljamain Sterling, you'd put him in an immediate interim title fight. Instead, Umar Nurmagomedov maybe gets jumped up the ranks and given his chance. Somehow Henry Cejudo comes back and says, let's do it to Sandhagen or even Rob Font. We have no idea. It's just a very interesting spot when there's some bit of curiosity by the champion, or at least strong interest being spoken upon by the champion Aljamain Sterling about moving up a weight class and challenging the champion at 145, when even though Ilia Topuria is right there as a top contender, it could be argued that he needs one more before you give him the title shot. UFC Nashville overall, without this fight, would have been a bit underwhelming, because when you dig into the card, co-main event is Jessica Andrade and Tatiana Suarez. I'm really excited to see Tatiana Suarez come back. I've done an interview with her on Moneyline. If you guys watched that, it was during an off week. I think she's going to win, and that's a cool fight, and I'm curious to see it. But as you dig down, there's fun matchups, but there's not huge name value. Dustin Jacoby, Kenny Zedjiku, that's the featured bout of the night. Tanner Bozier, Aleska Kiamir, a fight before that, not huge. Ignacio Bahamondes, Ludovic Klein. I am hyped to see Diego Lopez back. He's fighting Gavin Tucker. So there's cool fights when you dig through the card, like Billy Q's fighting Damon Jackson. It's solid. OSP versus Kute Lava. There's good fights. Hani Barcelos, Kyler Phillips now jumping in. Jake Hadley versus Cody Durden. So you know what? When you really dig into this card, there's good matchups. It's going to be an entertaining ass card. It just needed this cherry on top main event. Without it, I think that they would lose a lot of eyes, and I'm thankful that they pulled it off. Now, I know I have not been as active as I should be with news reaction videos, so I apologize to you guys for not dropping the reaction to UFC 294's recent fight announcement, which feature Islam Makhachev versus Oliveira 2, and Hamzat Chimaev now fighting Paulo Costa. As they were saying, he was supposed to be fighting Jared Cannonier, but now it's Paulo Costa, which honestly is a way bigger fight, and I'm stoked to see it. I'll be doing a live stream after I record this. It's July 20th, so if you're watching on the day that this drops, probably, keep your eyes peeled for my live stream. I might be live right now for some of you. But I hope you guys enjoyed this early prediction news reaction. I'm having a lot of fun making these, and I'm glad I got to deliver to you guys. So smash the likes, show some support. Let me know what you think in the comments. Throw your early prediction out. I'm curious, where are you guys at? Do you think that Rob Font could pull off the massive upset, or does Cory Sandhagen have his number? I believe the latter. I think Cory Sandhagen gets him. Make sure you subscribe if you guys are new, and turn on those post notifications too, and put them to all if you want to see these news reaction videos so that algorithm starts pumping them your way. Thank you all so much. Drop a W in the comments if you got nothing to say, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, guys.